Hey there. Before we dive in, I want you to take a deep breath with me. Inhale, exhale, and now, I want you to know, this is not a list of rules. This is not a lecture. This is a conversation between two people who've lived through some things, who've known what it means to carry light in a world that sometimes prefers the dark. I want to talk to the ones who know they're chosen, not in a prideful, flashy kind of way, but in a quiet, reverent way. The ones who've been cracked open by grace, who've walked through fire and somehow came out with softer hearts. This is for you. And I want to say it plain. There's something deeply sacred about a calling, something so intimate, so tender, that it almost feels too holy to name out loud. When God places a calling in your heart, it rarely comes with fanfare. It's usually quiet, gentle, almost whisper-like. And that whisper, it's meant for you. Not the crowd, not the doubters, not the ones who don't understand the weight of it. I remember the first time I felt truly called to something that didn't make sense to anyone around me. It was one of those moments that was simultaneously exhilarating and terrifying. I felt awakened, purposeful, but also incredibly alone. So, naturally, I went to people I trusted. I wanted affirmation. I wanted someone to say, yes, I see it too. But instead, I heard things like, that sounds risky. Are you sure you're qualified? What if you fail? Each word, no matter how well intended, felt like a stone added to the weight I was already carrying. And for a while, I questioned everything. Here's what I had to learn the hard way. Not everyone can carry the weight of your calling because it wasn't given to them. It was given to you. It's easy to forget that. It's easy to assume that just because someone loves us, they'll understand the deep things stirring inside of us. But love and understanding don't always walk hand in hand. Sometimes, people love you deeply and still can't see what you're becoming. Sometimes, people have only known you in one version of yourself. The one that stayed safe, small, familiar. And when you start to step into something bigger, something divine, it threatens their idea of who you are. Or worse, it threatens their idea of what's possible for themselves. So they project their fear onto your faith. And here's the thing, faith is fragile in its early stages. It's like a newborn. It needs warmth, protection, and gentleness. When you expose it too soon to skepticism, it can shrivel under the weight of someone else's disbelief. That doesn't mean your calling isn't real. It means you've got to be careful where you take it. Think of Mary, the mother of Jesus. When the angel told her about the miracle growing inside of her, she didn't run around trying to convince everyone. Scripture says she pondered these things in her heart. She protected the promise. She let it grow in silence. There is something powerful about keeping certain things between you and God. Not because you're being secretive, but because you're being wise. Because you know that some things need time to develop before they can withstand public scrutiny. When you're chosen, the calling on your life is rarely understood by the masses. And that's okay. You're not called to be understood. You're called to be faithful. So protect your calling like you would a fragile flame. Shield it from the wind of others' opinions. Feed it with prayer. Nurture it in quiet places. Surround yourself with people who know how to hold dreams without crushing them. And most importantly, don't wait for validation to walk in your anointing. God called you. God sees you. And that is enough. I believe there's immense power in vulnerability, but I also believe in sacred timing. And those two things aren't mutually exclusive. There's this idea floating around, especially in the age of social media, that if we're not sharing every wound as it happens, we're somehow being inauthentic. That if we don't bleed publicly, we're hiding. But here's the truth I've learned the hard way. There's a difference between being vulnerable and being exposed. You see, when you're in the middle of your pain, when the grief is fresh, when the betrayal still stings, when the anxiety is so loud it drowns out your own voice, that is not the time to lay it all bare for just anyone. That is the time to be held, to go quiet, to tend to the wound, not display it. We don't set broken bones in the town square. We go to quiet, sterile rooms and let the healing begin in safety. Our souls need the same kind of environment. Sometimes we feel this pressure, especially as people of faith or people trying to walk in purpose, to turn every pain into a sermon. But your heartbreak is not a performance. Your suffering is not content. It's okay to retreat. It's okay to say, I'm not ready to talk about this yet. That isn't weakness. That's wisdom. And it's not about pretending everything's fine. It's about knowing that not everyone has earned the right to hear your story in its rawest form. Because there will be those who don't hold your vulnerability with care. Who will take your honesty and twist it? Who will judge your process? And that can create wounds that are even harder to heal. So be discerning. Find your safe people. Maybe it's one friend, maybe it's your journal, maybe it's God. And let your pain be held in arms that won't rush it, fix it, or make it perform. When you're chosen, your story has weight. And weighty things require handling with reverence. You will share. One day you will open up. And when you do, it will be from a place of strength, not survival. From the wisdom of the scar, not the rawness of the cut. And in that space, your testimony will carry power, not because it was rushed, but because it was refined. So give yourself permission to bleed in private, to heal away from the noise. Your silence in the storm does not mean your voice is gone. It means you are gathering strength. It means you are being made whole. And one day when you rise, you won't just speak. You will resonate. There's something incredibly sacred about the steps you take when you're walking in obedience. Especially when you're moving towards something that doesn't make logical sense to everyone else. The moment God whispers your next move into your spirit, it doesn't usually come with a blueprint or a round of applause. More often, it comes with trembling hands, a quiet yes, and the kind of courage that keeps you up at night. But here's what I've learned. If you share that next step too soon, with people who are rooted in fear, they won't just question the path. They'll start questioning you. And it's not always malicious. Sometimes it's the people who love you most. Sometimes it's your family, your closest friend, someone who has known you for years. But if their faith has been shaped more by fear than by trust, they won't be able to see the vision God gave you. They'll ask, why would you leave something secure? Are you sure this isn't just an emotional decision? What if it doesn't work out? And each question, no matter how gently phrased, plants a seed of doubt. Not just in the plan, but in your ability to carry it out. When people are rooted in fear, they tend to filter everything through the lens of limitation. Their words, though maybe meant to protect you, often come wrapped in anxiety. They'll urge you to stay safe, to stay small, to wait a little longer. And if you're not careful, you'll start mistaking their fear for wisdom. But there's a difference between caution and calling. Caution says, stay where it's predictable. Calling says, step into the unknown and trust that I'll meet you there. We are not meant to live according to someone else's capacity to believe. Think about Noah. Imagine if he had taken a poll before building the ark. Imagine if David had waited for public approval before stepping out to face Goliath. Imagine if Abraham had demanded validation before leaving everything familiar behind. If they had waited for everyone to be on board, they would have missed the move of God. You don't need a group consensus to obey a divine instruction. Sometimes the most sacred things God asks of us are the ones we have to carry in silence until it's time. Sometimes the move is so bold, so radical, that you have to go into a season of holy quiet just to protect your obedience from being diluted by other people's doubts. And listen, this doesn't mean you walk in isolation. It means you walk in discernment. There's a difference. You can seek wise counsel from those who are rooted in faith, who understand risk, who've walked their own wilderness paths with God. But if someone's life is ruled by fear, they'll never be able to bless your leap. So move gently. Move silently if you must. Let your steps be steady, even if they're not loud. And let your fruit be your evidence. Because when the time is right, when the vision becomes reality, there won't be a need for explanations. Your obedience will speak for itself. The ones who were rooted in fear might say, "I never saw it coming." And you'll simply smile, knowing that God did. You're not crazy. You're called. You're not impulsive. You're in process. And you don't owe the fearful affront row seat to your unfolding. Keep walking, quietly, boldly, faithfully. There's a sacredness to the way we connect with God. A deeply personal, intimate dance that doesn't require an audience. But in today's world, where everything seems to be on display, it can be tempting to wear our spirituality like a badge, to prove our worth through how publicly we demonstrate our devotion. I want to gently remind you that your intimacy with God is not a performance. It's not a trophy to hold up so others will see you as holy or good enough. It's a relationship, a quiet, ongoing conversation between your soul and the divine. When I say intimacy with God, I mean those moments no one sees, the whispered prayers in the middle of the night, the tears you wipe away when no one's looking, the times you sit in silence and just listen, even when you don't fully understand. These moments aren't meant to be broadcasted or validated by the applause of others. There is a subtle pressure, sometimes even from within ourselves, to prove our faith by how visibly we live it. We might think that if we don't share every Bible verse, every church attendance, every spiritual breakthrough, somehow we're less faithful or less loved. But that's simply not true. God doesn't measure your worth by your social media posts or the size of your congregation. God sees you in your quietness, in your honesty, in your willingness to show up, even when faith feels small or shaky. The truth is, when you reveal your intimacy with God just to prove your worth, you risk turning something holy into something hollow. You risk making your relationship about approval rather than awe, about performance rather than presence. And here's the most beautiful paradox. The deeper your intimacy with God, the less you'll feel the need to prove it. Because when you've tasted grace, really tasted it, you don't have to announce it. It changes you quietly, deeply. It shapes how you love, how you forgive, how you live. Your worth isn't found in how loudly you proclaim your spirituality. It's found in how deeply you embody it, even in the unseen moments. So protect that sacred space. Keep it private when it needs to be. Guard your quiet moments with God fiercely. Let your actions, your kindness, your peace be the visible echoes of your relationship with the divine. Because those who truly know you will see it, not because you told them, but because it shines through you. And that, my friend, is a love that can't be faked or fabricated. It's authentic, it's real, and it's enough. There's a beautiful tension in doing good, between the joy of giving and the temptation to be seen giving. It's something I've wrestled with myself, and maybe you have too. Because when you're chosen, when you carry a purpose bigger than yourself, your heart naturally wants to reach out and help, to make a difference, to shine light into dark places. But here's the truth we often forget. When good deeds become performances, when we do them with the hope of applause or recognition, something precious is lost. I want to be honest with you. There's a part of us that craves validation. We want to be noticed. We want to feel important. We want to know that what we do matters. That's human. But when that craving drives our generosity, it makes our gifts fragile. You see, when you give for the applause, you become dependent on something external, a fleeting spotlight that can disappear in an instant. You start measuring your worth by likes, by thanks, by visible outcomes. And if the applause isn't there, suddenly your giving feels hollow or, worse, resented. But when you're truly chosen, your giving is an overflow of something deeper. It's not transactional. It's not about what you get back. It's about being a conduit of grace. Remember the story of the widow who gave 2 small coins. It didn't look like much to anyone watching, but Jesus saw her heart. He saw the sacrifice. That's the kind of giving that matters. The giving that's done in secret, in humility, because it's an act of love, not a call for attention. When you give quietly, you're protecting the sacredness of your generosity. You're allowing your heart to stay pure. You're letting your gifts be free from the chains of expectation. And here's the beautiful paradox. When you stop chasing applause, your impact becomes louder. Your kindness will ripple through lives in ways you might never know. Your love will sow seeds that grow into forests of hope. The world might not see every act of goodness you do, but God sees it all. And that is the only approval you truly need. So give without fanfare. Serve without a spotlight. Love without a scoreboard. Because when your good deeds come from a place of genuine grace, they don't just change others, they change you. And that transformation, that is the true miracle. You are chosen. Not because you're perfect, but because you're available. Because when life tried to make you bitter, you chose better. Because when pain said close up, you stayed open. You are chosen because you carry something this world desperately needs: compassion, courage, conviction. And that's not something to parade, that's something to steward. So protect the sacred, guard the holy, and know that your silence, at the right time, is not weakness. It's wisdom. You don't owe everyone access to your soul. You don't have to reveal everything to be real. And you don't have to prove you're chosen. You just have to live like it, wholehearted, brave, and grounded in grace. Thank you.